church cares, and so does the St. Raymond Annatis Foundation for Freedom, Family, and Faith. Hi, I'm Anne DeSantis, Executive Director. In 2015, the Mercedarian Friars came together because they wanted to start a foundation to help families in crisis. And that's exactly what we've been doing over these years. Whether it be something to do with divorce, separation, trauma, job loss, loss of a loved one, or other adversities, we've helped so many families get through those tough times through the spiritual works of mercy. We'd love to hear from you. Please do get in touch with us for our services. They are prayer, priestly consultation, podcasts and videos, and programs and events. We look forward to hearing from you. Just go to nonotus.org and get in touch with me. I look forward to hearing from you. God bless.
Fiat Ministry Network and Patchwork Heart Ministry present Journeys in Faith. Now, here's Anne DeSantis.
Good evening and welcome to Journeys in Faith here on Fiat Ministry Network. This is Anne DeSantis back again on this Friday evening. Great to be here with all of you because I have an amazing guest for you. She's a returning guest as well. Her name is Liz Montigny. Liz, thank you so much for joining us here on this program.
Oh, it's an honor once again to be here with you, Anne. Thank you.
Yes, and we've even done some collaborative work. I have to mention that because it was just so wonderful for us to have you as part of our Eucharistic Summit, which we did this past December 2022 for the St. Raymond Annatis Foundation, Patchwork Heart Ministry, and Fiat Ministry Network. We did a whole Eucharistic Summit with over 20 Catholic authors and speakers, and Liz was one of them. So please do check out the Eucharistic Summit and watch her video. It was amazing. All you need to do is go to nonotus.org. There is a Eucharistic Summit page. So without further ado, I'd love to read your bio to our audience. And it's a simple, short bio, but it's jam-packed with all the wonderful things that you're doing. Is that Liz Montigny is a Catholic life coach for women, retreat leader, and host of the Keep Blooming podcast. She coaches her clients to reach their goals and grace instead of hustle. That's not an institute. Yeah. Liz lives with her husband and their 3 boys in Massachusetts, where she homeschools and builds her theater ministry. Connect with her at lizmontignycoaching.com. May I say that I did a free session with Liz for her coaching, and I would highly recommend that to all of you. She does one free session, so please do go to that website and check it out. Again, welcome. Thank you so much again.
Oh, thank you. And yes, I'm so glad you took advantage of that. And it's something I call a strategy session, and it's really just about where you are right now, where you want to go, how to get there. And if it turns out I can help you with that, we talk about that. And if not, that's okay. I'll still point you in the right direction. So it's a great, especially this time of year where everybody's thinking about, hey, what are my goals? What am I thinking about this year? How did last year go? It's just great to get on track with your God-led goals for the year.
And there's all kinds of goals in our lives, right? A lot of people think about like that they want to lose some weight, they want to get healthier and exercise, they want to have a neater house and get rid of things. They want to have better relationships either with their family, their husbands or wives, but I think the work that you're doing is good because you put God at the center of that. And isn't that the most important thing? Tell us a little bit about your own personal story. I know that you were a guest on this show before and you did go into a lot of detail about that story, but just some basics about your story would be great.
Yeah, I felt called to be a life coach because what I found in my own life as an entrepreneur and a mom to 3 young boys was I got caught up in this idea of hustling all the time. Like you have to be working this hard, and I found that what was happening to me was when I was working, I was thinking about, oh, I need to be doing this with the kids. So I wasn't being productive in my work because I was distracted about what I should be doing with the kids. And then when I was with my family, I found that I just had, kept thinking about work. And so what happens is your brain and your body are never in the same place at the same time. You're not present. And and it was hard to be present for my family, and it was hard to be productive in my business with that kind of mindset and struggle. So I really had to do some work spiritually and mentally on how to even that all out. And what I did was I was looking for a coach myself, and I knew my spiritual life, my faith is so important to me and such a big part of my life that I wanted to make sure I aligned with the right person. And as I searched for a coach, I struggled to find one that I really aligned with. So I thought, well, if I'm looking, there's probably somebody else looking too. So I just knew I needed to go further into this personal development journey. So I decided to be that person, become that coach. And it's been such a growth process for me, and my clients. So, when you work with me, that I've either gone through what you're going through or I'm walking alongside you, because I do believe that, personal development is just a constant thing. And I don't think it's this, woo-woo thing, right? Especially in faith, for faith-based people, sometimes we think that, oh, maybe I shouldn't do that because it sounds like, I'm not putting God first. But in fact, God wants you to be the best version of yourself, and he wants you to act on those dreams he's putting on your heart. So go for it.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. And I know that when you talk to me, was something that you do implement when you speak to your clients, is that there's nothing wrong as a person of faith to have what they call healthy boundaries. We do need to have those boundaries. And it's even so that we can develop that relationship with God too, right? Through prayer and through just living our daily lives and being aware of his presence. So I think that's a beautiful thing too, that you keep that part of it in mind. It's so important, isn't it? I mean, we do need to foster that. And sometimes you need to say no at times instead of saying yes to everything that comes down the pike. Is that true? Would you agree with that?
Yeah. I mean, I get caught up in saying yes to a lot of things like the shiny object syndrome, or thinking I can volunteer for every little thing at my parish or whatever it may be. And sometimes I think when we get caught up to saying yes to everything, or feeling like we have to be that person who cannot say no, when we say yes to something, it's sometimes holding us back from something even better, whereas if you cultivated your time and really thought about where you want to put your energy, maybe God has something better in store for you than what you just said yes to off the top of your head. So just taking that moment to pause is huge.
Yes, it really is. Because I think you said just a second or two ago that sometimes within our faith life, in our parish communities, we can feel that pull to want to do more and to want to, please people, I guess. I don't know if you use those words. I don't think you did, but but I do think that that goes with it, because you don't want someone to look down upon you if you don't say yes to something. So I love the way that in your coaching, you help for people to discern the way that God is speaking to them, right? I mean, isn't that kind of the way that it is and the way it should be?
Absolutely. I mean, God gave you certain gifts, and you're here to cultivate those gifts, and that's how you serve. So sometimes I think when we keep saying yes to something, or we're not really clear on, what we should be doing, what we shouldn't be doing, and sometimes I think we forget that other people are here to share their gifts as well. So sometimes you might be getting in the way of someone else sharing their gifts, and so I always encourage people to stop and think before they say yes to anything, whether it's an invitation, an opportunity, anything, and just say, is this bringing me closer to or further from the life I want to build? Just
Yeah, that makes
write it
sense.
on a sticky note and put it somewhere. Yeah.
And I don't know, I think you would agree with this, and we can, talk a minute or two about it. But I think as Catholics, sometimes that whole idea of redemptive suffering, to me, it brings to mind that, yes, everything that I do has to be connected to my offering to God. And sometimes when you think of the saints or very like holy people that you think to yourself, well, it doesn't sound like there's very much enjoyment in life then, because everything is like redemptive suffering and suffering, right? But I do believe, and I think you and I talked about this, God does wish for us to be not just joyous, but also happy too. And I know there's a difference there, because joy is like you can be happy despite your circumstance, but happy has to do with just your general like demeanor of life. When you wake up in the morning, it's kind of like what gets you going, your relationships that you have with people, what makes you smile. And it's not a sinful thing, is it, to do, because God does desire our happiness, doesn't he?
Yes, absolutely. And I think the big difference for me is, joy is eternal, right?
Yes.
And happiness is temporary. Are we going to be happy all the time? Of course not. But I also think too, and I like your point about redemptive suffering, because I'm not here to say that you're never going to struggle, because that's not true. Of course we are. We live on the earth, we're not in heaven yet. So um it's setting a boundary doesn't mean that you're automatically putting aside any suffering. That's not true. And I think a lot of the cases, in at least what I have noticed, when we start to live into our gifts, what God has given us, and giving that back to the world, sometimes you do run into spiritual attack, and that's a form of suffering, because
Yes.
the enemy doesn't like what you're doing, because you're living into what God is calling you to do. So it's not all rosy, but the joy comes in the fact that you are giving glory to God. So we don't want to shy away from it, because suffering is everywhere, but we also want to be realistic about what challenges we're going to face too.
Right. What you can do and what you can't do.
Mm-hmm.
I thought before we take our break, I'd love for you to talk to us about your Keep Blooming podcast. Tell us a little bit about it, and where can people subscribe and watch your podcast?
Yeah, thank you. It's audio only, so
audio
you can
only.
listen on Spotify, Google Podcasts, and I've created it on Anchor, and what's the other one? Oh, iTunes, Apple. So you can listen to it, the usual spots. Basically, it's just a weekly podcast. It's short. I keep it short because I know, hey, we don't have a lot of time, but it's basically just coaching you to reach your goals with grace instead of that hustle mentality. So I really talk about step-by-step goal setting. Each week I try to give, really tangible, doable action items that you can do to change your life. Whether that's incorporating more rest into your life, or even just this past week, I talked about, just a doable morning routine. Sometimes I think we overcomplicate life. And, so just talking about simplifying and really focusing in on what's essential for your life, and how to reach those goals step by step instead of burning out.
Yes, that's excellent. And I myself am excited to listen to more of your episodes. So thank you for that. Now, we do have to take a short break. We're going to be right back here in just a few minutes with Liz Montigny on Journeys in Faith. See you soon. Welcome back to Journeys in Faith on this Friday evening with my friend Liz Montigny. And during the first half of the show, she told us a little bit about herself and what she does as a life coach. And I know that it was formed originally from Zig Ziglar, correct?
Yes, I'm a licensed Ziglar coach. So for those of you listening, you may have heard of Zig Ziglar. He was a motivational speaker, a businessman, an author. I mean, he did all sorts of things for decades. He's passed for several years now, but his family has kept up his legacy through business coaching programs and life coaching programs. So I'm really just honored to be a part of that legacy, and just to be able to use all their resources is like so rich and helpful to myself and my clients.
Yeah, I have to say, I've always liked him because he has so many famous quotes to help, not just with like business or like sales, because a lot of them I think were geared for like how to reach more clients and things like that, which is a beautiful thing because so many people are involved in like some kind of customer service or outreach, or what used to be, I don't know whether they're still using the word sales anymore, but you get my point. But he's got some wonderful quotes, and I know that even if you go on, say, social media and look him up, you can see some of those wonderful ideas that he had, which I'm sure is being implemented into the coaching that you're doing. It wasn't just one-liners too, right? I mean, he wrote books. He was a famous speaker. So
Absolutely.
definitely learn more about him because he was really an amazing person. And I just want to repeat for the second half of the show that Liz's website is lizmontignycoaching.com. Now, I know that another thing we were going to talk about on this program is something that you're doing in October. It's very, very special for not only for your clients, but maybe new clients who might come on board with you. Tell us about that and sort of like what exactly will you be doing on this getaway?
Yes, I am planning a destination retreat in October, the first week of October 2023 this year. I'm so excited. I call it Restore with an emphasis on rest. Okay. And it's a week away. And it's a women's retreat, and it's for women who want to reach their goals with dropping that hustle mentality, and they want to take themselves out of the familiar and get a fresh perspective on life. And we do that in such a beautiful setting. I'm so thrilled to be returning to San Miguel Azores for the third year. This will be our third year during this retreat, and I get to work with an amazing travel planner. I would have never tackled this on my own, so I work with a travel planner, and she handles all the accommodations and the amazing food and all the beautiful places we get to go. And then I focus on morning masterminds. So we sit down as a group. It's very intimate. It's 20 people max, probably more like 15. And we talk about a lot of this stuff that we've already touched on earlier in their show, and just goal setting, where you are now, where you want to be, what's really important in your life and essential, and how can you live more fully into those dreams and reach those dreams. And I have a lot of tools that people can use and take with them. So it's not as though you're on this retreat and you can't apply it to when you get home. The whole idea is to take all of that energy and focus that you've worked on and take it home with you and apply it to your life. And I just think October is a beautiful time to do this because it's before the holidays. And so you can really take yourself out of the ordinary, have some clarity. And so when you come back, you're not caught up in the whole craziness of holiday time and New Year's resolutions and everything like that, because you already know what your focus is. So it's an honor to be doing this for the third year, like I said. And if that's something that appeals to you, please check it out. It's on my website currently right now, with all the awesome details and how to register and all that good stuff.
I mean, I will say I am personally interested in learning more, and obviously we will see whether I can or can't, but it does sound like a wonderful opportunity for women. And I love the fact that it combines that whole idea of goal setting, but obviously with God at the center of it, isn't that the most important thing? Because any of
Absolutely.
our goals are not really worth anything if it's just for ourselves, right? Because we're all part of that mission of the church, of the world, of our families, of our friends, of God, right? And so I
Yes.
just think that is a beautiful thing that you're doing. Ask people to check out that on the website. Now, is there anything else that's going on in this year of 2023? We're taping this in January of 2023 because people watch these shows later on too.
Sure.
Um, that's going on that you want to tell us, a calls to action or anything like that?
Yeah, I would just, if you're that person that is at a crossroads and there's more for your life, but you're just not sure which way, or you need some guidance on something big that you have planned, or maybe even it's not a big thing and you are just tired of struggling and tired of the hustle, I really encourage you to take some time. You can go to my website and look at what I have to offer, because I do focus in on private coaching, which is one-on-one coaching, as well as the retreats. So if the retreat is not something you can make, please look at one-on-one coaching and what that can do for you. And it's really just accelerating your goals without burning you out. And I think the key piece is accountability. You're 40, there's a stat out there that you're 43% more likely to reach your goal when you write it down. So you're already halfway there, just writing it down. And you're 90% more likely to reach your goal when you have an accountability partner. So my goodness, you're practically there if you are able to check in with a reliable friend, mentor, or coach. So, having that coach is just that, person who, they're not your friend, they're not your family member, they're objective. And, I'm going to be challenging you with all sorts of questions that those types of people wouldn't ask you. So to really get you thinking and to get you moving.
It's so important because I think, and I wouldn't even say this is just as women, because obviously men have their own struggles too, right? And young people, old people, somebody in the middle, everybody has some kind of challenge or struggle. But I love what you just said about writing that goal down and then having an accountability partner. And the fact that, as I keep repeating over and over, so forgive me, but that God is at the center of those goals. It's not just these selfish things that you want to make all this tons and tons of money for yourself and not give back, not do anything in terms of what God may want you to do. Right. So I think that's a beautiful thing. And I just make that outreach to people watching this show right now is to think about going to her website, LizMontignyCoaching.com, and at least make that initial appointment. And I believe you still do that as a complimentary, correct?
I do.
People can still do that.
Absolutely, Anne. And I like what you said about, God's at the center of it. I just want to remind everyone listening that, whether we're talking about dreams or goals, however you want to say it, God is at the center of that, because I feel like the Holy Spirit is putting that on our hearts to do something. And when we take action on those dreams and goals, we end up serving people along the way. And so, God's asking you to step out in faith. So I always make sure, a big part of my coaching is honing in on that spiritual piece. And I root our sessions in Lectio Divina. On my retreats, we say the rosary and we have Lectio Divina time. So it's just a good foundation to start from.
Yeah. And we all need that. We all need some kind of guidance in our lives from someone. Well, obviously, God is at the heart of the guidance that we need, right? The Lord's will for us. But it is good to have really, good people around you to help to guide, no matter who you are. So I just want to thank you for all the great work that you're doing. Now, we're not quite at the end of the show, but getting there. Is there anything else that you want to share with our audience, just even about yourself, about your family, just about your work or any kind of advice that you might want to give them, just anything that you'd like to share.
Yeah, I just want to share, something I worked on my own retreat last fall was really focusing this year and honing down on two key areas that I wanted to work on. Now, for me this year, I really want to focus on the physical and the spiritual. Physical, because your physical body is your engine, and how well you take care of it and fuel it affects every area of your life, right? And how you perform. So if you're not getting good rest, or if you don't have enough energy to do all these things you want to do, you really got to take a look at that. So I'm honing in on that. And the other thing I'm honing in on is just taking all my business decisions, especially, to the Lord, and asking him where he wants me to drive that. And I found that those are just two key areas for me. And I feel like for anyone listening, if you are feeling stuck or a little confused, if you focus on those key areas of the mental and spiritual, physical parts of your life, I feel like the rest is going to come along for the ride. So take the time to do that. And that requires self-reflection, time in scripture, time with God. So whatever that is for you, and it's going to be different for everybody. What works for me is not the same as what works for my best friend, who I was just talking to about all this stuff the other day. We have different prayer lives, and that's okay. So don't be intimidated about what other people are doing. You talk to God and you figure it out.
That's great advice.
Yeah.
So it's always a pleasure to have you on the program, and that we've worked together in other capacities. Like I said, so blessed that you were part of that Eucharistic Summit that we did. And keep an eye, because we have another summit coming too, the Marian Summit. I believe you said you'd be interested in partaking in that.
Absolutely.
Yay. Okay. So let me just mention that before we end, that in May of this year, 2023, we are doing a Marian Summit on the Blessed Mother with 20 plus Catholic authors and speakers. So there's not a registration yet as of when we're taping this, but there will be soon. So keep an eye on nonatus.org and register, as Liz will be one of our speakers for that event. So Liz, thank you so much again for joining me on this program. God bless all of you. And
thank you again, Anne.
Yeah. God bless all of you. We'll see you here next week on Journeys in Faith with Anne DeSantis on Fiat Ministry Network.
Journeys of Faith is a production of Fiat Ministry Network and Patchwork Heart Ministry. For more information about Journeys of Faith, email info@fiatministrynetwork.tv. And be sure to friend, follow, and like us on social media. Just search Journeys in Faith with Anne DeSantis.